Chris, where does Jamarian's kind of defensive performance tonight, 9 blocks and, everything else that he contributed, where does that rank among, defensive performances you've seen from one of your players in your career?
Yeah, I've been fortunate in my career and have coached a lot of great rim protectors. It doesn't always come in the form of block shots. We've had some great wall-up guys over the years, Robert Tomaszak, and guys that take charges, Thomas Brands. We've had a lot of good rim protectors. Certainly Tariq was a great shot blocker for us. But Books, it's a special talent. It really is, and he takes pride in it. Books is a guy that knows what his job is. He knows what his role is, and he tries to bring it each night. So it was a special performance.
Chris, your team went on a big run midway through the first half, but Florida kind of countered and reduced the deficit to 4 at halftime. What was your message at halftime to kind of catapult your team to the big second half?
Yeah, just stay the course. The game within the game tonight was several things, but rebounding was one of them. And I thought we did a good job rebounding in the first half. We kind of held our own early second half when we were separating. We were right there. We let it get away from us late. To me, it's a 40-minute game. So I didn't like the way we finished the game the last 7 or 8 minutes on defense. Too much fouling, and the rebounding became an issue late. But give our guys a lot of credit. I thought for the first 30 minutes of the game that we responded and did a little bit better job on the backboards against a really good rebounding team. When people say this is the best shooting team or best defensive team, I think it's too early because it's only one game in. But there's no denying Florida is one of the best rebounding teams in college basketball. We'll see how it shapes up as the 18-round fight continues. But great rebounding team. Their coaching staff does a great job with that. Their players. So it was a challenge for us tonight. I thought for the first 30 minutes we responded. And then late, just too many miss assignments in the last 7 or 8 minutes of the game.
Jian Breakfield with 28, Morrell with 23. Just through 15 games just with these guys and, after recruiting them back, what have you been just the most proud of and just trying to get everybody back on track, especially after what happened in Knoxville?
Yeah, proud of those guys for so many reasons. Things that aren't on the stat sheet, really things that aren't even a part of the basketball game, just their leadership and buy-in. And I really appreciate, where their hearts and their minds are. In terms of the game, to me, it's not really about 28 versus 12. The game's going to bring different nights of scoring, but I did love the way that Break was aggressive. Ended up being a special night for him, but he was just aggressive from the onset. Had the courage to take big shots, was driving the ball, and was really dialed in a lot of ways. And then Matt, same thing. Matt had a great week of practice. When you come off an adversity situation like we did at Tennessee and you get back, you got a couple days of practice, you need your best players to respond. And Matt did that in practice, kind of led us in a lot of ways among some of our other veteran players.
You've been coaching for as long as you have. Can you sense a response like this?
Are you calling me old?
Yeah. Is that okay?
How old do you think I am?
No, he told us that he had
23.
Thank you.
Can you sense a response like this coming, or can you feel it in practice before it happens?
That's a good question. One day doesn't define you. And the second half of Tennessee, and give them credit. They had a lot to do with it. It wasn't like our guys just quit playing. It might have looked like it, but when you go back and really watch the tape, Tennessee is a good team. So you don't define yourself on one day, your worst day, your best day. It's kind of who are you. And I did think we'd respond tonight. I really did, because I know who these guys are. I was out there on the early Friday mornings in the summer at 6 a.m. and I've been there in the two-a-days. And even though we won some games to start the season, we still had a lot of adversity. We don't base our performance on the scoreboard only. We base our performance on kind of where we'd like to be. And so, I did have a really good feeling our guys would respond tonight. Certainly couldn't predict the win or loss or how we'd play, but I knew we'd respond.
Chris, this is Jian Breakfield's sixth straight game with 15 or more points. What all have you seen from him lately in the last, in that run of games that maybe you hadn't seen before?
Yeah, I'd say 3 things. He's committed to the process. He puts in the work. He doesn't take days off or afternoons off. He keeps working. It's really the same Breakfield in terms of his working that he was earlier in the season when maybe he was going through some tougher times individually. So he's got a poise about him. You're going to see him in the morning at the TUI Center. You're going to see him at night here in the pavilion getting shots up. You're going to see him in the film room once a day. so he stays the course. I think the second thing is, when a guy's on kind of a streak like this, give his teammates a lot of credit. There's guys out there screening for him, and there's coaches putting him in good positions, and there's guys passing him the ball. So our veteran team does have a pretty good understanding of who's scoring, who's hot, where the ball needs to go. And so I think Break will be the first to tell you that too. His teammates contribute to that. And then thirdly, like I've already mentioned, when he's aggressive, he's a good player. Again, he's not always going to score 28, but when he's aggressive, he's a good player, really good player.
How have you seen kind of Jalen Murray evolve kind of as a playmaker and setting up opportunities for his teammates this year?
Juju's really embraced that. Every basketball team's got players, and players have roles, and some guys fight the roles. The job we had open, Juju applied for the job, and he wanted the job, and he doesn't try to do another job. So he's a very talented guy, great shooter. So there's always going to be some other things to his game, but we do need point guard play. And tonight, where I was sitting, I don't have my glasses, but 7-8 assists, and he had the one lazy turnover. And so he's doing a good job. When Juju takes care of the ball and when he gets others involved, and I thought he did a good job early. I thought he was, to me, I don't want to speak for him, but he was focused on getting some guys started, and then some opportunities opened up. He leaked out for a three, then he got another three, and that's what we need from him. Like, point guards have to score in spurts. If a point guard just scores the whole game, they're not a point guard. And Juju walks that balance really well, or he did tonight.
2 games under his belt and having to integrate Brandon mid-season into this, where you had expectations for him. I'm sure those had to evolve with the situation. Where do you feel he is and where you'd like him to be in 2 games in?
Yeah, Brandon was at the top of the list of the guys that responded following the Tennessee game. We need to get Brandon more minutes. He knows that. We know that. It's a process coming back. It's not an excuse, but adding him halfway through the season, kind of, or what it feels like halfway through the season. But Brandon's a good player, and I told him this on the court at the end of the game. A lot of respect for how he handled the last couple of days from the Tennessee game to this game, and he's deserving of the more minutes, and I hope he continues to get more minutes. That's based on his performance, but tonight he's a double-digit scorer. If the game hadn't been out of hand, he'd have had 15 points tonight or so, and that's what we need from him. But Brandon's been through it. It's a tough deal. Like, you practice, you don't know whether you're playing or not, and all of a sudden, hey, you're playing. So it's not making excuses, but this hasn't been easy. But Brandon comes to work every day, and so there's great times ahead for Brandon Murray. I'll predict that confidently.
First time this season that you changed the starting lineup with Cisse in there instead of Sharp. Was that just because of a matchup thing early on, or was that something just that you wanted to see?
I'll tell you about that one. I'm not big into the whole self-promotion and all that stuff, but I'll say this because I'm really proud of Book. So Sharp comes to see me this week, and I got a great relationship with Books. It started in recruiting. He's a guy that cares about one thing, winning, and he basically just said, "Hey, Coach, I don't care if I start or not. I came to Ole Miss to win." And playing against Musa every day in practice, those two guys go at it like best friends off the court, but on the court it gets pretty heated every day. And so he kind of brought up that idea. So I give Books all the credit for that. I mean, you see it a lot in sports, just an unselfish guy. And then normally what life does is it returns the favor pretty quick. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Books plays great tonight, blocks a school record shots or whatever it was, SEC record, because his heart's in the right place. And when you're talented and your heart's in the right place, then good things are going to happen eventually. So it's happened a couple times in my career, not many, but I certainly won't forget this. Books coming in and basically just trying to help his teammate Musa get going. And I thought Musa played really well in spurts tonight too. There were some segments in the second half where I thought he was the best player on the floor.
Feeding off of that last question, Musa got into foul trouble kind of early in the game and picked up a quick one in the second half, giving Sharp more minutes. What do you say to your team when guys like Sharp respond to the call in a big way like he did tonight?
Yeah, exactly. Key word, responding. And it's a team sport. Again, Musa and Books have a good relationship. They kind of pull for each other. And in that spot, we have a lot of confidence in that 5 spot that we can compete with anybody in the league, in the country. And those guys pull for each other. I thought Musa, when you're as aggressive as he is, there's going to be some fouls in the course of the game. A couple of them were a little self-inflicted, some scout report mistakes on some guys that used the shot fake. But I thought Musa looked well tonight. I thought his conditioning looked a little bit improved from the past couple of weeks. And obviously Books had a special night. But both those guys are a big key to our team. And, you know, a lot of basketball left. This was just round 2 tonight. But we need Musa and Books to play well. I thought Rashad did well, you know, to get his number called there in the first half. He was ready to play. He was prepared. He knew the assignments. He did some good stuff in terms of what we were trying to get done. And we'll need Rashad as this season goes on, too, no doubt about it.
Any more questions? All right, thanks, y'all.
Appreciate it.